Okay, so this is the onboarding workshop. For a lot of you here, you got an email inviting you to the workshop, or you saw a link somewhere and you decided to join the wait list for grant writing mastery. So grant writing mastery is actually a 5 weeks group program, and in this group program will help non-profit leaders to develop the capacity to be able to write compelling grant proposals, so they're able to access funding, they're able to access $10,000, $100,000 for the work they do. And so today is actually the onboarding workshop. This is a session where we open it up for nonprofit leaders across Africa to come and learn the basics, come and understand some of the gaps and some of the mistakes that you may have been making in your proposal writing journey, so you can begin to see areas you need to strengthen and enhance your capacity to be able to raise money for your organization's work. Now, I've had a lot of interactions with nonprofit leaders across the African continent. It's been quite an interesting journey over the years. And then the core challenge that we keep on hearing over and over again in events and meetings like this, is the inability to be able to access grants. So that's the major challenge, to access funding for the work you do, how you keep on writing grant proposals and applications without any headway from grant funders. So in this session, we're going to be talking about some of these core issues that are actually been limiting your capacity to be able to come up with high quality proposals. You'll be able to gain clarity about how you need to begin to approach the process of raising money for your organization. We're going to be very specific about grant funding, because there are opportunities. There are opportunities for social impact leaders. There are opportunities for the work you do, especially in this space as the nonprofit sector, where you're working on the SDGs, where you're working on creating valuable solutions for the communities or for the groups that you support through your nonprofit organization. And so that's going to be the focus of our conversation tonight. So if you just joined, please ensure your mic is muted. Thank you everyone for joining. So you're here because you fall into a particular category. Now, when I was making the call, I said, if you have never written a proposal before, or you've been writing proposals quite all right, but you've not gotten positive feedback on the applications and the proposals you've been making, or you have never written a proposal before, just because the entire process seems to overwhelm you. The process can be a lot, can be complex, can be overwhelming. And I've interacted with a lot of nonprofit executive directors and CEOs who are just find the process so scary and overwhelming, and they don't even get to complete either the application template or proposal to send to a funder. And that way you are missing out on valuable funding, substantial funding opportunities that can actually help you expand your organization's reach, that can help you advance your mission, ensure that you're providing valuable services and support to the groups and the communities that you're representing as your nonprofit. So if you're here and you fall into this category, welcome. This is the spot for you tonight. And we're going to be having a very enriching and engaging conversation tonight, towards helping you build that skill set that you need to raise funding for your organization. So a couple of you here, I've met you, we've been on this journey, you've been attending sessions and events with me like this over the years. For some of you, I'm just seeing your name for the very first time. We've not had the opportunity to meet. This is our first meeting. So quickly, I have a very long name. At one time when I was working in nonprofits, I had the longest name in the organization. But in short, my name is Uvietesiwi Rukewe. And then I founded Strategic Consulting about 3 years ago. Some 3 years ago, after I finished my project working with Search for Common Ground, we had a project funded by we have a project funded by the German Embassy. And at the end of that project, I just decided I wanted to build a brand that could actually help build the capacity and competencies of social impact leaders out there working specifically on the African continent. So what we do in Strategic Outcomes Consulting is that we work with social impact leaders like all of you here in this meeting tonight. So we work with nonprofit founders, program leaders, impact leaders, who are advancing the sustainable development goals, who are advancing the development agenda on the African continent, and even outside of Africa, because I've had the privilege of working with people from the Caribbean. And then our strategy is to ensure that we are helping these leaders access funding through strategies that actually bring together and integrate a business mindset and then social impact. Because the nonprofit sector, people see it as, oh, this is a charitable sector. Everything revolves around charity. Everything revolves around humanitarian work. But my experience working in this sector for the last decade, at least I've been 11 years on this journey, and my experience has actually shown me that it's beyond humanitarian work or charity. It's actually about development. It's about creating and delivering solutions to problems. And so one of the things that I've done, or I continue to do here through the brand, is to ensure that we're able to get people to embrace the business mindset. Even as you are out and about trying to help people who are disadvantaged, communities and groups who are disadvantaged, who are vulnerable, you actually need to begin to do that from a business mindset where you are focused on the outcomes. You're focused on the change that you're able to create. You're focused on the value that you're bringing to your population, because that is the value that funders are interested in. And that's what they want to hear. It's not all about, oh, the charity, the help you're doing, but how you're able to demonstrate to key stakeholders how valuable your work is and why they should support you. So we're bringing this mindset into social impact work. And we've been doing this in the last 3 years. And so far, we've helped our clients and the people we've worked with to raise over $1 million in grant funding. It's a lot of work. And then we're so excited that every day we begin to see people building these capacities on their own and then raising funding. We have some of those success stories here, right here in this meeting tonight. And I find myself privileged having served these amazing people. And we continue to exchange learning, exchange strategies to ensure that the communities that you support have valuable services. You're able to transform their lives. You're able to create real meaningful impact through your organization's work. And so quickly, these are some of the people that we have really worked with through the Grant Writing Mastery Program. So much later tonight, I'm going to be showing you what the program is about. I know everybody here, you've gone through the page, the information for the program, you know what it is, you know what you're getting. But these are some of the people that have really become intentional about raising funding for their organization, putting in the work. In sessions like this, when I bring non-profit leaders together, I always say that this is a disclosure. It will take work. You need to be able to embrace that responsibility, accept it, that it is your responsibility to be able to attract the funding and the opportunities you need for your organization's work. You cannot outsource that responsibility to someone else. You cannot outsource that work to someone else, because you are the bearer of that vision, and it is your full responsibility. And then for people who are now awake to know that, yes, this is something I must do. I must learn the skill. I must grow my personal skill set, grow the capacity, grow the mindset and the habits to be able to make this happen for our organization. So we have people like Joy, people like Donald. We have people like even Livingstone. I couldn't even put all of it in the slide, but I just wanted to let you all know that funding opportunities are available. And then it all depends on how you are able to structure what you're doing, how you're able to structure what you're doing, how you're able to present what you do to the right funders. And we're going to be explain some of that. We're going to be unraveling some of that, the basics and the fundamentals tonight in this session. So for all of you who have joined, welcome. Thank you for joining again. Help us ensure that your mic is muted so we don't have background noise coming in to distract us. Okay, so from the very beginning, what I want us to understand is that the money you need for your programs, everyone is here because you're interested in conversation about grant funding, about raising money. Even in the WhatsApp group, I've seen people talking about, oh, we've been spending money out of pocket for our programs. We need to be able to attract grants. But one thing that you need to get clear is that the funding proposal, your application, your proposal, the money you need, which is why you're putting all those documents together or even learning how to write a proposal in the first place, begins with a problem. Some of you have heard me talk about this over and over again, and I may begin to sound like a broken record, but it is what it is. I can't say it enough, because from experience and from my interactions, because you started your nonprofit out of passion, because it's a very passionate thing for you, it's easy to lose sight of what really matters. And then you just begin to pursue ideas that you like. You begin to design programs based on assumptions and speculation. And then when you get to the proposal writing process, when you're trying to put together or make an argument for a funder to support you, you're not able to raise a very compelling argument. So every time I have the opportunity to share, every time I have the opportunity to engage with social impact leaders, I always want us to come back to the basics and understand that if you're writing a proposal, if you're writing a funding application as a non-profit organization, either you're an NGO, you're a social enterprise, even as a business, it begins with a very valid problem. So if you have designed a program that objectively, because at this point, you need to begin to tell yourself the hard truth. You need to be very real and then critique what you have come up with to answer the very hard questions that you would need to answer when you find yourself before a funder. And when I'm talking about finding yourself before a funder, it may not be physically, but your application will be before a funder. Your proposal will be before a funder who is assessing it, evaluating it to see if they should give you the money or just throw the proposal away. So it begins with a clear need. So if your idea or the program that you're looking for money for is not actually meeting a need that is very critical, then the proposal writing process becomes very difficult and challenging for you. That's why you find yourself you're just going round and round in circles, you're writing applications and there's no headway. There's a problem, there's a disconnect between your idea and the need in the community. It's either you're not communicating the need adequately, you're not communicating it enough, or you don't even understand the issues, the local issues in the community that you're trying to address, which we'll be talking about in the next an hour, 30 minutes or 2 hours tonight. So your money, the money you need, the money you're looking for, I will say it over and over again, it's in a problem. And so you need to be conscious, what problems are you solving as a nonprofit organization? So you set up a nonprofit and all you do, you're in the community, you're raising awareness on key issues. You're trying to get women and young people to build certain skills and all of that. Beyond those nice things that you're doing and you're trying to pitch to a funder, the fundamentals, back to the foundation of things that will actually move a funder to give you money is the need. What is the need? What gap have you identified within a particular locality, within a particular region where you work or where you're interested in? So if you're not able to really communicate what that need is in your proposal, in your application, or if you don't understand it as an organization, you will not be able to come up with programs that key stakeholders will feel it's valuable or will see that it's valuable. So you just be sounding like every other nonprofit out there, doing awareness campaigns, doing capacity building, training, advocacy here and there, and it's not leading anywhere. We can't count the number of nonprofits in Nigeria alone, not to talk of Ghana, Cameroon, Botswana, Kenya, at least all the regions that are represented in this meeting tonight. You can't count the number of organizations trying to advance the SDGs, but we still have very critical challenges that even seem insurmountable. And I begin to question what's even the essence of all of these nonprofits we have all around the place. It all comes down to some technical gaps and errors in the way that we put together the programs or the projects. And this is being reflected in the experiences you have engaging in your proposal writing. So when you see that you keep writing applications, you keep writing proposals and you're not getting feedback, they're not even writing back to you to say, I know it's overwhelming for the funder, because for every grant opportunity they open, they can have thousands of applications, and then it's very challenging to give feedback to individual applicants. But you want to ensure that every opportunity you have in pitching your idea to a stakeholder, to a funder, to a grant maker, you are bringing the best arguments that you can come up with. And so it is your responsibility to do the research. It's your responsibility to really understand the communities and the groups that you are working with or you're proposing to work with. It's your responsibility to understand the key issues in depth so that it will feed into the programs or the projects that you are delivering.
We got the spirit.
So one of the things that I would always say again and again is for you to understand that you are a social innovator. You need to come out from this mindset of, I run a charitable organization or I run a humanitarian organization. There's a problem with that mindset. There's a problem with you labeling yourself like that, because you begin to lose consciousness of the potential that your organization can bring to the society. So every time I'm always talking about this to say, move away from this help mindset. Move away from I'm helping people mindsets, because that language or that mental programming affects your proposal writing. Because for some of the proposals that I've reviewed, some of the applications that I see the language that it's communicating a help and a beggarly kind of language, which actually puts funders off. So it's not about, oh, you're doing charitable work or you're doing humanitarian work. You need to communicate clearly the solution you're bringing, how valuable it is, the benefits and the outcomes that it has the capacity to deliver to the communities. You need to show clearly how whatever you are asking for money for will solve critical problems in society. And so that's the perspective, the angle you need to begin to come from when you're developing your projects, when you're coming up with program ideas, and when you're approaching the application and the grant proposal writing process. It's no longer business as usual. You know, the way we write proposals some 15 years ago, some 10 years ago, is very different now. It's very different because funders are beginning to also think with the business mindset. Some 10, 15 years ago, or maybe when we're still looking at the MDGs, the Millennium Development Goals, you could actually write a simple or maybe not so good proposal and you will get money for it. But right now, that's no longer the case. Now, for some of you who are actively involved in proposal writing, you will see that some call for proposals are even open to businesses. So you have businesses who are now competing with you for the same funding opportunities. So it's no longer business as usual. The priorities of funders are beginning to change. Now there's so much clamor for sustainability. What are the other funding sources you can think? It wasn't like that. Some years ago, like 10 years ago, no funder will be asking you what other funding sources will you be exploring? No funder will be asking you what proportion, what percentage of this budget are you funding, and asking you for evidence of that money sitting in your bank account. They don't do that. But right now, that's the case. That's because priorities within the nonprofit sector is changing. It's changing. Funders are now beginning to look for social impact leaders who think like entrepreneurs, not just charitable people. They're now beginning to look for impact leaders. That's why I love the branding as social enterprise, because it's a move away from traditional NGO work, and it's not 100% profit oriented. You just find yourself that you're somewhere in the middle of the spectrum, where you are marrying business strategy, a business mindset, with then social impact work. So the priorities are changing. The competition for the money is increasing. New nonprofits are being set up every day, and these nonprofits are coming up with very innovative ideas that you now need to begin to compete with. And that's why the proposal writing process, the application process, seems very overwhelming and complex now. And then you see questions in the template that you are unable to respond to critically. So when you see a funding application, because every donor, every funder, they have their own template, they have their own questions they are asking you. When you are asking for money for whoever you are asking that money from, you have applied for a grant, you have applied to maybe Act Foundation, you've applied to Milu, you've applied to Tiwa. I think this is someone from Tiwa Danjuma here in a few minutes ago. You sent in the application to them, and then there are questions in their mind. Why should we give ABC Foundation $20,000 instead of giving that money to XYZ? That's the question you need to also begin to ask yourself. What is it that you need to do? What is it that you need to put into the proposal writing process that will make you more attractive than other organizations? Because it's not you're not the only one applying for that funding opportunity. For every call for proposal you see, just know that you have like 200 other organizations, if not 1,000 other organizations, putting together their ideas just like you. And some of these organizations also have opportunities of building their capacity, going to invest in learning, going to invest to learn skill set and create programs that are of high value. And so you need to now begin to innovate, to evolve. You can't be doing the same project activities that you started with 10 years ago. That's because the landscape is changing. The people you're representing, the people you work with, they're all changing. And so you need to begin to change. If you're fully funding your organization, maybe your own strategy or your own model, you have designed it in a way that you don't want to consider grant funding, you just want to fully fund your work, then you can do whatever you want. If you're going to be exploring external funding opportunities, if you're going to be exploring grants, then you now begin to think of what the funder really wants to see, because that's the reality, the practical reality on the ground. On the ground, it's not just about you. As we're going to be seeing tonight, as we run through some of the content that I've developed to share with you tonight, you begin to see, I want you to begin to look at it and then reflect back on your organization's positioning, reflect back on what you're doing, and begin to identify the gaps. Begin to identify some of the barriers, some of the things that you can connect with to see that, okay, I've not been doing this, or I've not been thinking about my work this way, so that you can learn and then evolve, make changes in your programs, make changes in the way you communicate the work you do, make changes in the way you approach funders, make changes even within your mindset. And so we're looking at how do you begin to develop the right mindset in approaching fundraising, especially grants. You want to write grant proposals and grant applications in order for you to access funding. Now, one of the priorities is for you to begin to know that whatever money that you're requesting for, whatever amount of money that the donor is going to give to you, there is something that they want in return. I always say that it's not just about you or about your organization's work, but it is about the donor's interest. Every donor has an interest. Every funder has an interest. And so if your application or if your proposal doesn't capture or communicate what you do in a way that it also aligns with the interests and the priorities of that particular funder, it is not going to work. It is not going to work. So I wanted to understand that in the grant writing process, for some of you that you've had the opportunity of applying for grants a couple of times, even if you've not gotten any, at least you understand that there's something called a call for proposal. There's a document you saw, or someone shared it to you. There's a document you saw, or there's a website that you had to visit. Like within the week, I sent emails to everyone on my email list about some particular grant makers on the African continent. Go to their website and then view. So you have actually gone to some sites like that, and then you see that a particular funding opportunity is open for a period. Maybe it's open for about 6 weeks. I think for an organization like ACT Foundation is actually open for a 6 weeks period. And then on that same website or on that document, the notification for funding, you actually see a lot of information that the funder is communicating to you. They're telling you about the issues that this particular call for funding is relevant for, the kind of issues that they are interested in. They communicate the objective of that particular call, sometimes the strategic priorities over a period of time. They can tell you, an organization like you said, USAID, can tell you that, okay, for this particular program, maybe it's a scale program, they tell you that for 5 years, this is what we're trying to achieve. We're earmarking $1 million to be able to ensure that we increase women's participation and engagement in the electoral process before 2030 or something. And then they are putting this call for programs around specific objectives, around specific area of value, communicating the kind of outcomes that they really want to fund. And so that actually communicates what the funder wants to put in money to do. So it is your responsibility to ensure that when you're doing your research, to identify the most relevant opportunities that you should be applying for, because it's not every call for proposal you see that you should be running after. That's why the information is on the website telling you the eligibility criteria, or you have that document to show you what you're looking for. And so I want you to realize that funders are giving money not just because of you, but because of their own mission, because of their own interest. The organizations are set up because maybe they want to improve or enhance access to quality education for a particular population, or they want to create better economic opportunities for specific groups who may be disadvantaged over time, or they want to try to increase stability in specific areas. That's their interest. So that's what they want to fund. You can't come in bringing ideas that are divergent from those interests. And so bear in mind that this money I want, the funder is interested in something. So how do I understand what this funder is interested in? And how do I begin to tailor our organization's work, or tell the story of our organization's work from a perspective that actually demonstrates shared commonality with that funder? So recognize that you have to think of the benefits to the funder. Nobody puts in money as we're just putting money for this. No, there's an interest behind it. There's something they want to achieve. That's why they have put out $1 million, $10 million. They want to give 50,000 US dollars to 10 organizations. It's with a reason. You must understand what it is, and then you must communicate what you do or what you have designed to reflect that. Okay, so that's the first thing that you need to begin to bear in mind. It's not about you, it's about the funder's interest. And so you must find that common ground between what you do, what your community needs, and what the funder is interested in. And so the second shift that needs to happen is that I'll take the problem solving and then the outcomes for beneficiaries together, because these are like two sides of the same coin. Now, when we started a few minutes ago, I mentioned that whatever money you're looking for, it's inside a problem. It is your ability to solve a problem that determines whether you're going to get money. This is whether, even if you're a business owner, you run a business and you're looking for grant funding to expand that business. If that business is not meeting a need that is very critical and that is sellable, that business cannot thrive. That business cannot thrive. So you have to clearly understand what the gap is. So there's no difference between you as a nonprofit leader and then as a business owner. The nonprofit is a type of business, is a model of business. And so you must approach it that way. It is a business because you're delivering services, whether you're doing advocacy or you're doing health promotion, you're doing public education, whatever you're doing, you are taking care of orphans and vulnerable children in a particular community. You're taking care of vulnerable women, victims of blah, blah, blah. You are actually a business. You're delivering a service. And so you are a business. And so that business must generate revenue. If the business is not generating revenue, then that business is dead. And then one of the revenue channels that you're looking at here is actually the grant funding.
Thank you. All
right. So for this to happen, for your proposal to make sense, for your proposal to have value, it must be solving a problem. It's not just any kind of problem. So yesterday, because throughout this month in July, every Saturday, we have life coaching sessions for the July cohort of grant writing mastery. All right, so yesterday was actually the third week for this cohort. And then I was sharing with the class that not all problems are equal. G-Time, so you want to turn off your camera, please? Not all problems are equal. Not all problems are equal. There are needs in the market. There are gaps in the market, but you must ensure that whatever gap, whatever need you're meeting is really very critical. It's so critical that it cannot be denied that that particular solution or that particular program is actually needed. 1 minute, we have a lot of background noise. All right, I think that's sorted. So not all problems. God. Can you please stay muted? You keep getting us distracted. If you're just joining, ensure your mic is muted. Thank you. So not all problems are created equal. Let me say it like that. There are some problems that are of high value. And let me tell you why. So for instance, there are some needs or some gaps in the community where you work or within the target groups or the target population where you work. And then you're already meeting it, you're doing something about that. It's good. The challenge here or the thing is, whatever you're doing to solve that problem, you may not necessarily be able to get grant funding for it. It is because there are 1,001 alternative options, different ways to address that problem, cheaper ways to address that problem beyond the application that you have made. So one of the things that comes to mind when a panel reviews your application or your proposal is to say, are there alternatives? What alternatives are available? Excuse me. What alternatives are available? What are the options? Are there other ways that this problem can be solved? Are there other cheaper ways, more cost-effective ways or even more faster ways for people to solve this problem. Why would you, let me use something more literal. Why would you want to take a walk, to trek from Nigeria to Botswana? You want to be on the road walking for months or years when you can just take a flight? Why should I decide to go on a boat, a local boat, and be paddling from Nigeria to Ethiopia when I can just take an Ethiopian airline one-way ticket to go to Addis Ababa? So look at that example and bring it to projects. So sometimes the way you have developed the project is so complex. It's so complex that it won't even solve the problem. Or there are more cheaper options. There are more faster options, or there are even available options that the government is also providing for free. So if the funder that you have applied to is assessing your proposal and sees that your own state government, your own federal government has different programs, different packages to address this need for this particular population. So why waste money to fund an idea that there are already existing alternatives everywhere for? So that's something that comes to mind when they're reviewing your application or a proposal. And so when you are putting up a proposal, these are the questions that you need to begin to ask. You need to be very, very sure that, or you're meeting a need, and whatever you're coming up with is so valuable so that you can tell a very compelling story about the work you do and why your organization should be funded. So I see many proposals around, oh, we're raising awareness. We're raising awareness on this issue. We're doing health promotion and all of that. And then you need $20,000. When just someone is already doing something, maybe through social media, or there's a local radio in your community that's already raising awareness. So whatever you're bringing doesn't really meet any need. It's just another fancy project that someone is just looking for money for. So some of the things I will be talking about will be not so nice for you to hear, but these are the mistakes you're making in the proposal writing process that makes you lose money. And so it's something that I have to say, even if it makes you uncomfortable. So you need to be meeting a very critical, a gap that is undeniable, that this is a very critical need in the community. Because why I'm sharing this is most times I evaluate my own personal proposal writing over the years. And I asked myself, okay, this particular grant, this particular proposal that scaled through, why did it scale through? And really try to understand what happened within that particular application process that made it stand out. And one of the cross-cutting findings that I've realized over the years is that the best proposals are the ones that focused on problems that are very critical, and the donor does not have a choice than to say yes, because there are no alternatives for the population. It's like it's either this or it's nothing. It's either this or it's nothing. It's either there's something close to it, or this population, they're done for. So don't go into, when you're pitching ideas in your application, don't go after ideas, don't bring up ideas that are easily replaceable, cheaply replaceable, that does not demonstrate any innovation, does not demonstrate any new thing. Innovation is not complex, does not bring in any fresh insights or a simpler solution, or a solution that really works, that when you look at how that program is going to work, how this solution is going to work, undeniably is going to pull out this population out of this problem, and then they're set. It's a sustainable solution. I was also talking about sustainability yesterday for people within grant writing mastery. So it's a tough one, but when you begin to have clear pathways, how to think through how you're coming up with these ideas, what gaps in the market, sorry, I'm talking about market, what gaps within the society or within your target population that you want to breach. Recognize that there's a difference between, I've said this before, yeah. There's a difference between the activities you're doing that you're funding out of pocket currently and what you're going to propose to a donor. That's another mistake that I've realized. Because you currently have limited access to resources that you need to advance your organization's mission. You've actually developed projects, or you've developed some activities that are affordable for you. So these are activities that are affordable. It doesn't have to break your pocket. It doesn't have to break the bank for you. You can do this to keep your organization running, that, oh, ABC Foundation is still here, we're doing this, we're supporting women who are victims of domestic violence, you do roadworks and all of those things. There's a difference between that activity that keeps your nonprofit operational from your pocket and the kind of project that you should be pitching to a funder that should give you 20,000 US dollars. Because when I actually designed the 5 weeks program, Grant Writing Mastery, I designed it so impact leaders can fix their minds between 10,000 US dollars and 100,000 US dollars. Right now in Nigeria, 10,000 US dollars should be about 7.5 million naira, 8 million naira for the CBN rate. And then you now have to ask yourself, what kind of solution is worth 8 million naira to execute within 1 year? My first successful proposal, I usually share it in sessions like this. And for people in this current cohort, they have that proposal in their hands to guide them. My first successful proposal, that was in 2017, is actually valued at 98,000 pounds. That's about 110 or 120 US dollars, if I'm right. Let's just say, put a safe figure, $110,000. That's the first proposal. And one of the lessons I can glean from that experience is that the project, the way that project was designed in a way that there's no alternative. This thing has to happen in this location, because without this system deployed here, people will continue to die. It was a conflict mitigation project. You know, when it comes to loss of lives and property, killings, I was here in the UK, then we're connected to channels, and we saw that currently there's an issue in Plateau State where 700 people have died. That one, that kind of issue, when you come up with proposals, the funder wants to listen to you, because this is a critical problem that has to be solved. This is a critical problem that has to be solved. And so one of the lessons from my very first proposal is that if it's not meeting a very critical need, it can be easily thrown away. So bear that in mind. And when you recognize that you're solving a problem, a validated and evidence data-driven problem, you have the data to back it up. One of the things that we're drilling participants within this current cohort is you have to go and look for the data. You have to go and look for the research that validates your work. So they keep writing, big coaches will tell them, you go back and find the data, find that research that actually validates that what you're talking about is needed. Okay, and then you also, the other flip side of the coin, because I said problem solving, outcomes to beneficiaries, they are both sides of the same coin. So now that you have come up with the solution for a particular gap within the society, and then you've positioned your nonprofit, this is what we're doing, this is the service we're creating, this is the value we're bringing to the society and to the economy. What is that value? Can you describe that value? Describe it in a way that is sellable, is marketable. Beyond training, because the most popular set of activities within nonprofit, the nonprofit sector, you have awareness raising, you have advocacy, you have training. Those are the most popular activities. But either you're training people, or you're on TV, you're doing one media dialogue, you're doing one webinar just like this, or you're on the streets doing road work, or you've put together, you've invited stakeholders from the government, and then you're having a stakeholder dialogue. Beyond these activities you do, how can you really describe and explain the outcomes that your beneficiaries or that your target group will really experience from your programs? What is it that will really change for this population when you have deployed your project, or even you have designed a project and then you're communicating to a funder that this is what you want to do, can you communicate objectively in a very compelling way? Write about 500 words or 1,000 words, 2-page document that explains the benefits of your program, of your organization's work. Because that's what we actually bring the money. So if what you have written, we can't really see tangible outcomes, we cannot really see tangible benefits, how will the funder be convinced? How would the funder be convinced to give you money? It will not happen. So proposal writing is actually a selling process. It's actually a sales process. And then there's a lot of research and design thinking that goes into it. That's why I started with, you need to now shift. It's not charitable or humanitarian work. It's social innovation. You're creating solutions to socio-economic challenges. And so you need to now open your mind to begin to think about fresh solutions that you can bring through your nonprofit that will now convince funders that, oh, we can give you money. So if a funder is looking at, oh, we're going to fund 10 projects, and each of these projects is $25,000, sometimes you just need to ask yourself, what is it that we can do as a nonprofit that is really worth $25,000? $20,000 is 16 million for 1 year. So you see, most times you're talking about salaries, rent, and nothing concerns the funder with that. They're actually interested in what will the communities you represent, the target groups you represent, what will they benefit from this project? And if you cannot communicate that in a very compelling way, it's a zero. So this is why your proposals and your applications will fail. That's why they've been failing, and they will continue to fail until you now sit and think and then begin to come up with a description of what your nonprofit, the value your nonprofit is actually delivering to the communities where you work, beyond your training, awareness campaign, advocacy, and all of that. What are the changes in the conditions of this population that your project will deliver? And these are the questions you will see in a traditional application form, in a proposal template. These are what the funders will be asking you. And so someone was asking from this present course of grant writing mastery, they're saying, what's the difference between objective, outcome, output, and all of that? It's confusing. Yes, the funder really wants to know. That's why they're going through the pain of designing these templates to capture information that can help them make a profitable decision. The decision has to be profitable to the funder. An investor wants to put in money into your business, or you're meeting an investor, maybe it's equity funding, and you're saying, oh, give us $200,000 for 20% equity from this company. Then they'll be thinking, what is the benefit? This $200,000 they're asking for, are we even going to get it back before profit on it over time? It's the same thing for a grant maker. But here, they are not saying, are we going to get this $20,000 back in cash? No. What they're looking at is the social benefit. I usually frame it as the social profit. So they look at the social profit that you're going to get from that investment. You're talking about education. You're doing work around a quality education. You want to ensure that there's equal access to quality education, even for disadvantaged children. Maybe you're working with children in IDP camps or wherever you have set up your nonprofit or your position your nonprofit to serve. So they are going to look at this particular project or this benefit that you have communicated. Is it worthy of $25,000 investment? What is the cost per head? Whatever value this organization is saying they're going to bring through this project, is it worth $500 per participant they're saying that you're going to work with? So this is the business mindset behind your work that you need to embrace so that you can do better in your fundraising, so that you can do better in your proposal writing. Okay. And so looking at basically what is it about, what does proposal writing really mean? From what I've been sharing in the last 50 minutes or 45 minutes or so, I've actually touched on some technical aspects about grant proposal writing. But in literal terms, what does the process actually mean? Or what does it actually communicate? So what does the process actually communicate, or what does it mean? For some of you, you think that, oh, proposal writing, we're just asking the funder to give us money. We're asking the funder that we need $20,000 to deliver a particular project. But what does it really mean in literal terms? So these are some of the questions, or these are some of the information that a proposal will actually communicate to a funder. All right. So based on the fundamental understanding that proposal writing or your work you do as a nonprofit is about problem solving, your proposal must communicate certain specifics. So if you look at a normal proposal template or an application template, it actually has different sections. So you may see section 1 or section A, section B, and then there's a subheading somewhere within that document, and maybe a small guideline somewhere that will tell you, oh, that explains the specific information that the funder wants in that particular section. We'll be looking at the components of a proposal in a few minutes. In a moment, we'll look at that, and then we'll look at how you can begin to approach those sections of your proposal or your funding application. So knowing that proposal writing is about problem solving, you first thing is that the problem you are addressing must be very clear. There's a dedicated section, as we'll be looking at the components shortly. There's a section in that proposal where you need to do an analysis and evaluate the problem that you want to address. Sometimes the funder can tell you to write up a page or 2 pages explaining the gap in the community you want to address and why you think you are best suited or what you want to do to address those gaps. And so it brings us back to earlier when I mentioned you must understand the local issues on ground. You must understand the peculiarities within that target group, within the communities that your nonprofit serves, so that you can write a compelling proposal. You can write a proposal that works. Okay, so your proposal or proposal writing is about communicating the problems that your organization want to address and who you are solving the problem for. So you can say, for example, that you're solving an unemployment problem, a problem of unemployment or inadequate access to economic opportunities, or maybe the prevalence of poverty within a certain geographical area. Maybe you're talking about Kenya, you're talking about Nairobi, or you're looking at, or you want to do a project, there's high level of poverty within a region in Botswana, whatever it is. You can or beyond that, you need to be crystal clear and super clear about the target population you're working with. For some of you, the proposals you come up with it's a generalized proposal. So you have set up your nonprofit, you say, oh, you're working with everybody needs help, everybody needs economic opportunities. No, you have to serve a specific segment of the society. You cannot set up your nonprofit and say you are working with everybody, or you're working with less privileged. You're working with vulnerable people. Vulnerable people, there are segments, there are different segments, smaller segments or groups within this umbrella of vulnerable people. And so when you now write an application or you write a project proposal that is so vague without showing clearly the segment, the group that you're going to be serving, the question that the funder will ask at that point is, how would these applicants, if we give them the money, how would they be able to measure the progress they're making if they're not very specific about the groups that they want to serve? So there will be and a problem with measuring, there'll be a problem with tracking, there'll be a problem with evaluating the impact, and even harvesting the impact stories and the success stories from your project. That's because you're saying you want to help everyone. It's not possible. Okay, so your proposal needs to be clear about a very specific problem, and that's some of the drills that are going on currently with this cohort. So will they go back, rewrite that process, go back, redo the analysis, be clear, bring the data and all of that. We're making them build that resilience so that when they're before a funder, they're super confident about the work they're doing for the organization. So what problem are you solving? Your proposal communicates that strongly. Who are you solving the problem for? Define that. What is the target group or the target groups that your project actually targets? Why do you want to solve the problem? I mean, what benefits? What is this new? What's the new perspective? What's the new standard of living? What's the new benefits that you're going to bring? What's the new reality that your project will create for these people? If you cannot capture that new reality clearly and communicate it in your objectives and in your outcomes, it becomes a problem. It becomes a problem because proposal writing is a selling process. You're selling your idea. You're trying to get the funder to buy into your vision. So one of the problems or one of the gaps, it's a mindset issue actually within the spaces. You leave things to chance, or you have assumptions that, oh, we are a nonprofit organization, an NGO, and so people should really understand what we're doing. Nobody has the time to understand what you do. It is your responsibility to craft what you do, communicate it in a very compelling way. So there are no assumptions, there are no speculations about this. It's 100% your responsibility and you must get it done. You must get it done in your project proposals, in the applications you make. So you should be able to describe it clearly. You should be able to tell and sell the story of what the new reality will be within the communities where you work. That's what would separate or make the proposal stand out. And this new reality should be so clear and be so practical that people can connect with it. People can know that, yes, this is doable. This is workable. I think we can put money here. And it should be different from what every other organization is coming up with. So we're seeing organizations trying to replicate solutions that are already in existence. So, and then in a community, you have 4 different NGOs doing the same thing, and we can't even track or attribute certain outcomes to a specific organization. So why you want to solve that problem is very critical. So this new reality must be sellable, You're working with young people you're working with young people, you're working in a community where there's a high prevalence of criminality, high prevalence of poverty, high incidences of rights violations and all of that. So what will the outcome be? And I intentionally created my brand as saying strategic outcomes consulting, because I always want to focus on the outcomes I'm creating for nonprofit leaders, for social impact leaders. So what is it that we will be able to create? What's this new community? What's this improved new reality that our work would be able to create for the community? And that is what we're selling in the proposal. That's what we're selling in the application. And so if the proposal is failing, that means there's a problem with this new reality that we are trying to sell. It is not compelling enough. It's not, or even if it's compelling, maybe it's not realistic. There are a lot of issues that can happen. It's not realistic. Another issue is that you do not have the capacity to create that outcome. It's a good project, it's a good design, they know it will work, but they know that with what that you have written in your proposal about your organization, you lack the technical capacity to implement it. And so that's why in some cases you see that you've come up with a beautiful idea and all of a sudden you see another organization implementing it. So that sometimes it can happen like that. So why do you want to solve the problem? Your proposal actually communicates the why, the reason, the benefits that you're bringing to the community. So some of you may want to go back to some of the applications you have made or some of the proposals you've written and then begin to identify the gaps and what you need to strengthen. What would you need to solve the problem? This is more like your resource analysis, your budget. Let me not use too much technical terms, your budget. So I was in a while ago, I was in an event just like this, but it was organized by another organization, was put together by another organization. And then someone was asking a question to say, what is my budget? How do I know my budget? And then I was just thinking, if you have a problem of not knowing your budget, then you have a project design problem. So that means you don't even know whatever solution you have come up with, you don't even understand it. You don't even understand what you want to do in that community in the first place. Because if you understand what you're trying to do, you will understand what you need to execute that thing. So if you have a challenge, you don't know what to do, how do I put up the budget, then you don't know what to do, what you're doing in the first place. Because if you have come up with a specific solution, I'm using the word solution here because what your project is actually a solution to a problem. So I'm intentionally using some of these words, some of these labels, so that you begin to think in a certain way. It's deliberate. So I may not be calling it projects or some of the initiatives and blah, blah, blah. Think about it as a solution so you know that it has to be solving a problem. And so if you understand how your solution would work, you will not have a problem with coming up with the budget, with what you need to deliver that solution. So it's like someone simply saying, I want to eat jollof rice. It's been a while I ate jollof rice. And then someone is asking you, how much do you need? And you say, you don't know. That means you don't even know what you're not even hungry. You're not hungry. If you don't know how much you need to cook jollof rice for you to eat, or you don't know how much you need for you to buy a plate of lunch because you said you're hungry, then you're not hungry. It's the same thing. So all of these things, you need to be deliberate and know in and out of how whatever you want to do will work and what you need to deliver it in that community, what you need to solve the problem. Your proposal also communicates why you are best positioned to solve your problem. Because a moment ago, I just mentioned that you may have come up with a solution that is very strong. You may have come up with a project that is sound, but they would not still select you because they do not trust that you have the capacity to do it, or your credibility is in question. And so you need to now begin to invest in building your brand, building your organization, ensuring that whatever work you're doing, they can easily find information about it out there. You're using platforms and channels like social media to ensure that you're building your organization's credibility. Why are you best positioned to solve a problem? Why are you best positioned to implement a project? So I shared this in the onboarding workshop we had last month, because this is something we'll be doing every month as we open up registrations for the 5 weeks program. So I shared in that particular cohort that there was someone I co-designed a project with. That was in 2020. So he mentioned, I think he works around Kogi State or something, and he said he wanted to do a project. He just needed to, throw ideas together and then flesh out the project concept and all. And so when I was refining it, I said the way we have developed this project, these are high-level outcomes that this person is trying to do. This is a high-level project that wants to bring together very influential public figures, very influential political leaders. And I looked, I said, this person, it does not really have the capacity to get the attention of these key stakeholders and then bring them for a conversation. How is he going to do it? And then he submitted the proposal And when I did a follow-up after a while, like, okay, that stuff we worked on, how did it go? So the funder actually wrote back to him that, oh, they liked the idea. The project looked good, was going to address the problem. However, they do not believe that he has the capacity to implement the project. And so they are recommending that he should partner with a much bigger organization, more credible organization, and then come back with a new proposal. And so, even if you understand the issue, even if you have the ideas and all of that, you also need to begin to be intentional about growing your organization's capacity, about growing your organization's credibility, and even your own capacity and credibility as the leader of the organization. So you need to begin to do that. So while you're doing your work, you need to know that I need to put myself in the best possible light. I need to show that I have competence. I need to demonstrate to this funder that we have the capacity. So one of the things that happened within this cohort as they started to execute, because every week when they get their trainings, you have to go back and write the particular section of your proposal, which I and other coaches will review and then tell you what to do to improve it. And then some of them that wrote sections of the proposal, sometimes you just want to do so much more to cover up time, even when you've not been asked to do that particular section. And so some of them wrote the section about a summary of their organization without going through the training on how to do that. And when I saw what they had written, I knew they had not gone through the training. And I just told them, see, with what you have written, no funder will give you money. With this thing that you wrote about your organization's capacity, your idea is good, valid, but with how you have described who you are, the capacity you have, it just shows that you cannot deliver this project. And so that's why the proposal will be thrown out. And then we now have to do our coaching and then realign, say, okay, this is how these are the kind of information that you should put into your paper to be able to sell yourself well. So you can do every other thing right, come up with a project that is innovative, be sure that you are meeting a need and a gap that is validated by data and all of that. You can do all these technical things. And at the end of the day, what will kill the proposal is who you have said you are. And so every section of the proposal is a selling process. So you're selling with how you are describing the problem you want to address, you're selling with the project you're coming up with, who you are, your credit, all of these things come together to make whoever is evaluating your application form a particular perception about who you are, which affects their decision, whether to give you the money or give it to the next organization. So in looking at the proposal writing process, because every month, even as I do this session every month and all that, I'm always bringing something new into the session for nonprofit leaders. And so there are three perspectives to communicating or to developing your proposal. And then these three perspectives must have a common ground. You must write it from a perspective of balance. So there is the you part, you as the nonprofit organization, you as the team who is conceptualizing the project, who you are proposing that you're going to implement this project in a specific location and all of that. There's that you part. There's also the solution you're coming up with, which is your proposition. And then I've shared quite a lot about you coming up with the idea and then some criteria that this particular idea or this particular program you're bringing in needs to have. And then there's the funder. And so these three perspectives, you must find the common ground within these three or across these three perspectives for your application or the proposal to work. So you must, or anything you're communicating, then it must come from that point of balance. It must come from that common point. So for you as the nonprofit, who in this case is the applicant, you are the applicant, you're the one asking for the money, you're the one coming up with the idea. You must demonstrate that you have capacity. You must demonstrate that you have credibility as an organization. So Everything you do as you're running your organization, the work that you have done, you must know how to begin to use that information to improve on your brand. You must know how to use that information to sell your organization. You have done some trainings and all of that. Those trainings that you have gone for, this information that you have, this new knowledge that you have, you must bring it back to the organization and let it show, infuse it into your work. You attend trainings, you go, this is another training that you have come for. But it's going to be bad if you go back to your organization and then you do not improve on how you have designed your project. You do not improve on the way you are writing your proposals. So that's actually one of the problems. So there's no linkage from the knowledge that you gain. I see Africa, people love trainings, we love knowledge, but there's a problem between translating that knowledge to solutions. How do we begin to use the information we've gained access to, use the knowledge to begin to create solutions that actually solves problems in society? So you must demonstrate that you are credible, from your qualifications to your work experience, to the solutions you're creating, to the outcomes that your organization is creating in the community, how you're changing lives in the community. All of these things, you must be intentional about bringing them into the proposal writing process. No knowledge is the way. You must bring the relevant progress that you have made in your career, in your organization's work, into your application. Because that's how you demonstrate credibility. How you have structured your nonprofit. For some of you, you've been running your organization for 10 years and you don't have any report. There's no impact report, there's no financial report, there's nothing that actually captures your journey in the last 10 years. There's no data. You actually engage with people every year, you do programs, but there's no data. Nothing. So how do you show a funder that you've been doing this for 10 years? That you've been doing this work for 5 years, for 2 years, when there's nothing to be able to verify your organization's work? So there's actually there are some applications you make, and then the supporting documents you need to bring into that application, you will need to bring in these documents. We want to see your impact reports. We want to see financial statements, even as detailed as your bank statement, so that we can validate if what you have said, the volume of funding you said you've been using for your programs, if it's really true, because your bank statement wouldn't lie. Your financial statement will lie. You may cook up your books, but your bank statement will not lie, because they can even verify it from your bank. So all of these things, thought leadership. So one of the things that I'll just quickly chip in is, do not spread yourself too thin. So when you set up your nonprofit, if you think that, oh, we're going to be doing so much more, so you're doing work around, you're doing health, you're doing education, you're doing peace building, you're doing economic empowerment, livelihood, environment, you're practically working across the 17 sustainable development goals, you don't have an organization. How would you develop thought leadership? So for people that have been following me for a while, they know that when you're looking for someone to come and talk about grant funding, they know that they can call Rookie even from the middle of her sleep, and she's going to talk about this. She's going to help us get results. So there are some people, when you're thinking about a certain solution, like for one of the nonprofits where I worked a couple of years ago, they know that when you're talking about terrorism, when you're talking about peace building, you're talking about conflict, it's Dr. So and so, because he has developed thought leadership in this specific subject matter. For some of you, you don't even have that area where you have specialized and say that, oh, when it comes to access to quality education, when it comes to policy reforms around security, we are the ones. When it comes to research, you need to find something that you want to position your nonprofit on and grow and build strong capacity and credibility in that specific area. It is business, it's not running. You're not different from a business. So who would you trust if you want to, for instance, you've come to this particular session? What if in the emails and all of that, today I'm talking to you about real estate, tomorrow I'm talking to you about grant funding, next tomorrow I'm talking to you about travel abroad, and you don't even know where are you focused on? What's your specialty? What do you know so much that, okay, that we can now come to you for help? You are just talking about something different every day, and we don't know what you're good at. So for some of you, that's what's happening in your nonprofit. So you're telling the funder that you're doing, we work around health, education, conflict, peace building, we will do poverty mitigation, we are doing everything, environment, eco-friendly product, environmental protection, this and that. And then they know that because you have spread yourself so thin across all these areas, you do not have thought leadership, you do not have credibility, you do not have competence in one or two specific areas where you are doing meaningful work for your target population. So today you come to the community and tell them about open defecation. Tomorrow you go there, you talk about peace building. The next day you go there, you talk about economic empowerment. Maybe you distribute envelopes of small money you've put inside. They're not going to get grants. You need to make that decision to say, we want to focus on these two key areas. This is the clear vision we have for the population we're working with. And all of our proposals, all of our applications, we're focusing on this solution and building thought leadership in this area. That way, it will show in your proposal to say, in that section, because there's a section where you must describe what you have been doing, the impact you have made in the last 2 years, in the last 1 year, depending on the kind of application you're making or the kind of opportunity you're responding to at that particular time. So whatever information you're supplying, it just has to express that element of, okay, we've been doing this. We are good at it. We are good at helping women who are victims of sexual violations. This is how we have helped them. This is how we have supported these women. We have built their capacities in this area. This is how they are now. You must build that thought leadership in a particular area to say, our organization will support women who are at risk of trafficking. And this is what we do. We've been doing this in the last 5 years. We've supported 150, 100, 220, 10 at-risk women. We have provided access to this platform, to this opportunity. We continue to do this, and then we want to scale. So you must sell your organization at every given opportunity. Then your proposition, I have dwelt on this part in the last an hour 20 minutes. What solution, this particular solution that you're proposing, that you're asking for money to execute. So you must ensure that it is innovative. You're not sounding like every other nonprofit out there, because everybody is talking about awareness campaign. Everybody is talking about helping widows. Everybody is talking about helping orphans, and then going to do food distribution. What different solution are you bringing that is practical, that will work, that is innovative, that solves a problem and delivers clear, tangible, measurable impact? So this is something you need to think through when you are writing your proposal, when you are writing your application, when you're coming up with project ideas. Remember that the activities you do to stay operational is different from the activities you are proposing to a funder. They're two different things. Except you've been investing in really driving a very innovative project, and then you want to take it like that, put it in your application. It is different, because you are not the one funding it now, and anything cannot go in this particular situation. And then your funder, every funder is different. Their priorities are different, their interests. That's why you just have to spend time to study that particular organization that you want to apply for funding to. If you have T.Y. Danjuma Foundation, you do something around education, you want to apply for their grant, you just have to study what are their priorities, what's their interest, what solutions are they seeking to support, what's the vision, what's the strategic vision for this period when it comes to education for vulnerable girls or for vulnerable women, and then how does it align with the work your organization has been doing. So you find out that as you write different proposals or different applications, you may begin to come up with newer versions, different versions of that work. At the end of the day, the North Star that guides your organization is your mission. Provided you're achieving the mission, you do not have to follow one particular project idea and say, this is what we must put in all our applications. The solution, the project design, the program is not cast in stone. So it will evolve. As you're writing from one organization to another, you may find out that, oh, you need to do something for this particular population, maybe for the unique peculiarities on the ground. You'll find out that maybe you need to do something around policy advocacy and really push for some government decisions to happen, for some policies to be implemented in a specific location. And so you must understand that whatever focus, whatever project idea you're coming up with in that application, in that proposal, it must align with that donor's interests, because that's what they're putting money in. That's what they're funding. They're funding initiatives that advance their interests, that advance their objectives. Because they too, they have a mission, they have an object, they have an agenda that they have set, that this is what we want to achieve for this specific period of time. Maybe we want to pull 1 million women on the African continent out of poverty within 10 years. And then if you're now bringing something that does not speak to that priority, it will not work. And so that's the research that you need to begin to do as you move from one application to the other, as you create one proposal and the other. These are the questions that whatever information you're putting in must begin to answer. It must speak the language of where that funder is going, because whoever they're giving money to is for them to move faster towards that mission, to advance their mission faster, more cost-effective ways to just help them advance that, oh, this is the objective that we have. And so whoever we're giving money to must feed back, must contribute that to that pot of objectives that they have set over that period of time. So these 3 elements comes in strongly into your grant application process. And so what I've been saying for the last 1 hour, 30 minutes, actually just explains what you have on this slide right now, talking about what funders want. It just explains it, summarizes it in one slide. So I've talked about how there must be mission alignment, how whatever you're doing must align with the funder. I've said that, I've spent time to discuss that. I've also talked about how your ideas need to be evidence-based. So in case you missed it, you cannot come up with a project that you have designed based on speculations, based on assumption, and then think that you'll be able to get funding for it, because there's no evidence that backs up what you're saying. So for me, when I came up with Grant Writing Mastery, the first time I launched Grant Writing Mastery was in 2021. 2021, we had the first cohort in 2021. And when I did that, I had conversations with nonprofit leaders. I did my research, I did some polls and all of that, and came up with the first version of Grant Writing Mastery. And at a point when I thought that I was so invested, it was draining me. For some of them, I think there's 1 or 2 people here who were in the second cohort where I was almost collapsing because of how draining it was. I decided to know this thing takes so much energy from me. Let me just be doing 2 days workshops and all of that. But I continued to listen to the data I was getting from my community. That's how you need to approach whatever project you're coming up with. You need to listen. It's about intelligence. I'm talking about, it's about information. It's about data intelligence here. As you're interacting with your community, as you are asking stakeholders questions, is not to just ask them questions. You have to document it and then think of how does this thing influence the design of our project or whatever solution we're coming up with. What does you don't just come up with, some of you that do a lot of training projects that have to do with, because in the nonprofit sector, we're building capacities. We're building capacities of different stakeholder groups, different target groups. We're trying to shape new behaviors. If your mic is open, please stay muted. I don't know why I'm unable to mute you, Sam. You're trying to build capacity so that you can begin to shape new cultures that are more empowering. You're trying to shape behaviors that are more empowering, more inclusive. You're trying to shape public behaviors and public cultures that are more inclusive, that are more accountable, especially in the African context. And so for you to achieve these outcomes, you do a lot of capacity building, you do a lot of stakeholder engagement and all of that. What informs the design of the modules of that training? So you're saying you want to do a 4 days workshop. I've actually have the opportunity of attending some of these workshops when I was still in the field before I came over to the side of strategy, consulting, and then coaching. So when I go for these events and I listen to some of the training, I'm wondering, will this training, the way it is, do they think that this thing will cause any change? You are just teaching people disadvantage of this and definition of it. How is that going to help this stakeholder create a new behavior, a new policy that will actually create change in society? What informs your design of your training programs that you're doing, or the accelerators that you're creating? What has actually influenced that decision? So it is the data. It is the information you're getting from your population. When women tell you that, for instance, in their community, they have a particular culture that women are not allowed to own businesses, or maybe women are not allowed to do income generating activities. So it is a culture within that specific geographical location that women are caregivers. And so they must sit at home, take care of their children, take care of the community, the extended family, while the men are the ones going out to do business or to do that to generate income. And then when the head of the family unfortunately dies, the woman experiences untold levels of economic vulnerability and hardship. And then as a nonprofit, you jump into that community and you begin to teach them how to start businesses. You begin to teach them catering, the one I dislike the most, soap making, this and that. And you're wondering why these women are still poor. You don't have the data. Even if you had the data, you're not using it. It's not a problem of, oh, they don't have a particular skill set, or they have not gotten to the point where it is a skill set they need. You need to begin to change that culture. You need to change that, break that exclusive or disproportionate culture that has actually put that woman in that vulnerable state in the first place. It is not, at that point, it's not a capacity problem. It's a cultural problem that you now need to begin to engage with local stakeholders to say, first of all, you need to begin to change that and get them to embrace this new system, this new culture, this new social behavior before you talk about teaching that woman an income generation skill. So, but if you're not engaging in that community, that peculiar place, if you're not engaging with them to understand the local issues, you will create a proposal that the panel evaluating knows that it will not work. So your project should be evidence-based. You need to know your population, know your target group. See, especially for organizations that are national. So if you're in Nigeria, you have projects that are running in the Northeast, then you're also delivering the project in the South. These two locations have different mindsets, different cultural beliefs, different local issues. So you cannot take the project like that and execute it here. You need to know what are the local drivers of this problem and then adapt the project. And it needs to show in the proposal writing process. So funders want to know that you have not, this solution that you're coming up with is not based on assumptions and speculations, but actually based on hard evidence. It's based on data. It's based on data. You understand it. Because sometimes you find sections of your application or your proposal that actually says, okay, who did you consult with when coming up with a project? Because we're looking at a rights-based approach to development where the people you are supporting are actually part of the process, part of the decision-making process that concerns their lives. Okay, and so that is really very critical. And then your idea, your project has to be practicable, needs to be something that can be executed, something that even beyond executing it, it will actually create the result that was intended. You can actually measure it. You have set up indicators, you have set up mechanisms that can help you track that it's working. And also in your proposal, you also talk about indicators. And that's why funders are asking you, how will you measure the progress of the project? When they look at how you said you're going to measure the progress of your project, they will be able to know whether this thing can be done, or if you do it, if it will create the outcomes that we need. So I've talked about credibility and capacity, and then value for money. When you say you need $50,000, what's that $50,000 going to create? It just has to make sense to everybody that will review that proposal. You cannot come up with a project that's going to support 50 people. It's a 6-month project. You're asking for $50,000. What exactly are you going to do? Or you have a project and then the team that will execute that project, you've actually put about 15 people. What do you need 15 people for to implement a project when in reality, practically, 3 people can get the job done? There are some opportunities that the funder will tell you straight that they are not going to pay for rent, admin charge, salaries, or whatnot. They're just 100% of the funding must go into delivering benefits for the community. There are some funding opportunities like that. They'll tell you these are ineligible costs. And so when you put that into your budget, it just disqualifies you. Okay, so you just have to always think about value for money. For every dollar that you are asking for money for, it needs to create something that makes sense. There's no room for wastage. Or you want to do a training and you're talking about a fancy venue, you want to do a training for 30 people and your venue cost is showing that you're going to use $500 for only renting the hall, and then each person $50 for lunch. What the hell is that? So some of your budgets are just so over bloated that it does not demonstrate value for money. When someone is reviewing it, the person just says that they just want to waste money, or they just want to be spending money or burning money in that project. Okay, so your solution must be cost effective. I'm not saying that it has to be so cheap that when someone reviews it, these people, they don't know what they want to do. You know, there needs to be that balance between you just need to understand the going rates of certain services and items that would go into your project. And also, there are some things you want to do. For example, if you're having a meeting, if you're setting up a stakeholder engagement, a stakeholder dialogue that's just going to hold for 3 hours, what do you need tea break and then lunch for? And all of that. So a simple coffee break can work for that kind of event. It shows you're thinking about value for money. So it's really what you need that you should be putting into that process, you know, for your funders. And at a glance, so these are the components. So whatever proposal you're writing, whether you're writing a proposal, it's an unsolicited proposal. So maybe there's a corporate organization and someone has asked you, okay, send us a proposal. That's a conversation that happens sometimes, especially for you all that you've built very valuable relationships with key stakeholders over time. These are people that can really support you, and then you are talking to them about your idea and they say, come up with a proposal, or just send me a proposal, just send me a 5-page no more than 5 pages, just send it. And then the question is, okay, what do I even put in the proposal? How should the proposal look like? What are the components of a proposal? Or you are applying for a grant and then you download the funder's template, you download the funder's document, and then you're seeing different questions, different sections. So however they have tailored or designed that section, it has this component. So sometimes they'll tweak the name and all of that, but these are the component parts of that proposal. So if there's an executive summary, sometimes they'll just tell you summary, proposal summary. And we always advise that that should be the last thing that you actually write. When you have developed all the other parts, you've come up with your justification and everything. So with that information that you have built into the other sections of the proposal, that is what you then summarize, on that first template to say the summary of the proposal. So there are some notes I have put in there that actually explains what this part is. Summary, like the word says, is just after all that you have said and done in your 5-page proposal, your 10-page proposal, or whatever. Summary, maybe the summary is like 500, 300 words, 200 words. At a glance, they just want to know everything that you're trying to do. And sometimes it's just that summary that the evaluator will read and know whether this thing will make sense or not. Because if someone is evaluating a proposal and then you have 500 people submitted applications or 300 people submitted applications, who has the time to read 10 pages for 300 people? So from the summary, people would read your summary and know whether they want to continue with your application or not, okay? And then your background analysis or your project and your problem analysis or problem statement. For those that are in this cohort, for the July cohort of grant writing mastery, in the template that we're using, because we're using a real call for proposal template. So in the template that all of them are currently working on, that particular funder is from the US Embassy in Abuja, Nigeria. That particular template they're working on, the US Embassy called it problem statement, where you have to now do an analysis of the gap, of the need, of the problem in the community that you are addressing. And so that first week was really very tedious with them because we were 3 coaches evaluating their work. So you have me commenting on the proposal, you have another coach, Renee, Coach Abraham, combined 3 of us in the last few years, in the last 3 to 4 years, we have raised income together value over 16 million US dollars. Abraham has done an outstanding work because he works with donor organizations. So in the kind of organization where Coach Abraham works, one proposal can be 5 million US dollars, 2 million US dollars. So those high level funding, because they actually give sub grants to organizations. Abraham is someone that reviews applications. And so he supports us. Why I'm the lead coach. I have 2 other coaches in grant writing mastery that actually looks through the proposal, evaluate, just as if they're going to give them money. But we're creating that experience so that people in this current cohort at the end, they have a clean, high quality proposal that they now feed into their applications and then proposal writing. So for the US Embassy, they call it the problem statements. Actually an analysis like I've explained, looking through, what is the problem? What is the need in the community? What is the justification? Why should this project even exist in the first place? You have to tell the funder why this project should be, why this project should exist. And so there's a science to doing your problem analysis, your situation analysis, what information should go into that. That's what you will be doing in grant writing mastery. The first week, you are going to do that analysis. You're going to write that section of your proposal, which you are going to evaluate. So in this is the training. That's why I called it the onboarding workshop. So the onboarding workshop is not me just saying, come and sign up for this class and all of that. Actually teach you. And with what you get from here, you can actually face a proposal, a proposal immediately. But in grant writing mastery, what you get when you join the 5 weeks program is execution, accountability. We force you to write the proposal. The proposal you must write, you must do the work. You must put in the work. You must create, like some of them that just write, go back and write it again. Some of them that just wrote 150 words will push you to push on to get to 600 words analysis of what you're doing. So that, because there are some proposals that say, write the 2 pages for your problem analysis, and you'll be lost for words. What do I want to write for 2 pages? What analysis do I want to do here? And so that is the experience that grant writing mastery gives you. You actually write the proposal, which we will review, we look at, we coach you, we push you on what to do. You refine your idea so that you'll come up with a project design, and we tell you that this thing wouldn't work. You need to go outside of the box. You need to push yourself, think outside of this, and create something better. So in this training today, we're telling you, teaching you, giving you information, and then in grant writing mastery, you actually get accountability, you actually get execution support, where you come up with your own proposal that is high quality because of the fire that it has gone through. Okay, then after that part, you also have a section that you now have to describe your project. How will the project work? So the tools that we're currently using throughout this year, every month, that's what we're going to be using, toolkit. So the US Embassy template that we're using, there's a section of that document that the funder will tell you. The funder says, describe your project objectives, your activities, and how these activities will help you achieve the objective. And just underneath that section, there's another box again, and they're telling you to write your program methods and design, and telling you to explain how your project will work. And then you will be confused. Man, I've just talked about your objectives and activities, yes, but then I want you to explain how your solution is going to work, how it will create benefits, how it will create the solution or deliver the benefits for this key population. Okay, so if I'm to use this components I've written, that means there are 2 sections in the US Embassy application template that you have to respond to, that talks about your project description and the methodology behind that your project that you have come up with. Okay, and then monitoring and evaluation. You must be able to track. You must be able to show to the funder that, see, these things that we want to achieve, this is how we're going to track. This is how we're going to evaluate the impact of our work, which is what monitoring, evaluation, and sustainability is all about. Now, every proposal, now we must talk about sustainability. How sustainability is about how this project will continue to deliver benefits to your target population, even after the project ends. So you think about sustainability from the design. From design, you have to think about sustainability. There are different channels or different strategies or perspectives to sustainability, which you will work on when it's coming to grant writing mastery, and then you're building your project. So you're going to develop your monitoring and evaluation framework. You're going to come up with your sustainability strategy that is unique to your own project that you're looking for funding for, sorry. And so you're looking at sustainability. Oh, we want this project, even if the project has ended after 2 years, the target group that you're working with will not revert back to the vulnerability or that state of disadvantage or inequality where we met them. So whatever we're delivered for them, whatever we have supported them to build, will continue to bring benefits to the community even at the end of the project. So when you think about sustainability, it now actually affects or influences the kind of idea or the kind of project concepts that you come up with. Because some projects, the way it is delivered, once you pause that project, that population is back to the vulnerable state where they were before. And funders don't want to support that kind of idea that when our funding ends, then that population is back to that state where they were. Nobody wants to put that's bad market. Nobody wants to put money in that kind of thing. So if your project is developed in a way that once you stop, once you are out of there, chaos continues, then that project is not sellable. So you have to build in sustainability into it. Capacity statement was what I talked about when I was talking about the youth perspective. to proposal writing, where I talked about you, your position, and then that. So I talked about your capacity. You must sell yourself. Every experience you've had over the years is relevant for selling your organization as a nonprofit. So your personal career path is relevant. Okay, so even if you're running a pretty new organization that has just been in existence for 1 year or 2 years, your own career, it's important because you've been working, you've been doing things, and then you can bring the relevant expertise that you've developed from your own personal career into the capacity statement of your organization. There's a way to do that. All right, what have your organization achieved? So these questions, at times when you're writing the proposal, you'll be asking yourself, what's the whole essence of all of this information that the funder is asking? They want to make an informed decision to ensure that as they're giving you money, as they're deciding on who to give money to, they're actually going to give it to someone that's going to do a good job of creating real outcomes and better experiences for the population. All right, and then your budget, we have talked about that before. Funding opportunities, I've had this question, last cohort, the one for last month, this slide was not there. I just brought in this slide in, so you can just take a screenshot. These are some of the websites where you can find funding opportunities. And so these are what we call, maybe you can call grant boards. For me personally, I signed up to, what's it called? Funds for NGO. I signed up personally to Funds for NGO. So that's the organization I subscribe to. I'm a premium member. For some of you, I know you know about Funds for NGO. And so you get notifications, or you can go into they're going to their website or their portal, go into their portal, and then you now have to set your location, set the filter to your location, to your program area, and see the grants that are open at that time that you can apply for. You can go to Philanthropy Circuit. I don't know, maybe it's a paid platform or something. So normally in the email I sent to you, for those of you that got that, if some of you don't read emails, if you're talking about grants, you have to always be opening your emails and read your emails. For this week, okay, that's last week because we're in a new week already. So for last week, I sent an email with top 10 funders that you can go and look at their website. They're giving grants to nonprofits, investing in impact on the African continent. You can look at that email, go to their website. So when you go to their website, you just have to spend time on that website and then look at what are they doing, what they do, how do they fund, how do they partner with other nonprofits, when would their grant application or when will their grant window open, when will they open call for proposal. For some of them, it's on a rolling basis. So anytime you can turn in your application, and then in their next review, all they've collected, they will review and then give their feedback to funders. So these are just a few. There are a lot of websites you can go to, you know. So when I was talking about my first successful proposal in 2017, that is valued at £98,000. The proposal is, so those of you that are joining Grant Writing Mastery, you're going to get it as part of your toolkit, so that when you read, you read the narrative, read the writing style, you look at the argument and all of that, okay, and then see how you now need to present your ideas in a proposal. It was from this website, UK Aid Direct. So that's where we got the opportunity from. It was a JOCOS Memorial Grant. That's where we got the opportunity for. We were looking at work around ending identity-based violence, and we're able to come up with, I was able to come up with a project, an early warning system that really worked for that particular location, because that region had protracted ethno-religious conflict for a very long time, and so it really worked. So these are, you know, websites that you now need to look for and all of that. So if you've signed up for Funds for NGOs, the free version will not really help you. You need to go for the premium version so that you can have real access, you know, to you can have access to the opportunity. All right, you can have access to grant opportunities, okay? So you can begin to leave your questions in the chat area. For some of you that are not in the WhatsApp group, because there's actually a waitlist WhatsApp group. And so when I actually sent out or when I sent out the invitation, the email for the Zoom link, they're actually emails that are outside of the wait list that I sent you to. So if you're not on the wait list, I'll just drop it in the comments. I'll drop it in the comments right away so that you can join the wait list to ensure that you're in the wait list. And then you can get access to this information, these emails, every time that I drop them. Okay, so even for some of you that have had network issues and all of that, don't worry, the recording will be sent maybe by tomorrow or by Tuesday. We should be able to upload the recordings. Okay, so in the chat area, the link to the waitlist is there. Ensure you're there so that those emails, you can be getting access to them. So this is how the grant writing mastery program is structured. Remember, I said that this was the onboarding workshop. The workshop, I always design it in a way that you get valuable training. There are workshops like this that you've attended tonight that you pay nothing less than $27, $47 or more for, but I decided to open up this training for free as the onboarding workshop for you all to get access to valuable support, training, and insight into how you need to begin to model the strategy for your organization's project. And then you are able to make really meaningful proposals and applications for your organization. All right, so I'm sharing my screen right now, which captures how the grant writing mastery program will run. So this is for August cohort. So we're starting from August 5th, and then we're going to run it to September 2nd, because it's actually 5 weeks. So we're going to have 5 live coaching sessions beyond all of the activities that actually happens within in between. So it will start from August, this cohort, next cohort, because this cohort for July, we're in our 12th week, we're still working, the class is still open. And then this is for August, and then it's going to start from August 5th till September 2nd, which is the 5 Saturdays. So the live sessions are like the coaching, the co-work, the support sessions, where if you've been doing, as you're doing the work during the week, if you had some gray areas that you were not clear, or maybe you've had seen the reviews from the coaches, the comments in your proposal, because you actually write the proposal in the program. It's not just, oh, come and watch training workshops or attend live trainings and all of that. You actually watch those trainings and then you do the work, you do the writing, okay? So this is the focus for the 5 weeks. The first week, the focus is on helping participants to ensure that they understand the donor's interest. They know all they need to look out for. They're coming up with their proposal ideas, and then understanding community needs, doing their needs analysis, doing their situation analysis, the problem analysis, and then deciding, okay, these are the issues that we're going to do our project around, and this is the argument that we're bringing to the funder in order for us to be able to write our proposal. So you need to understand the donor's interests and community needs, and then in the second week, we'll work on project design. So that's where you now develop, okay, this is what the project will focus on. These are the activities that we want to do in the project. And then how you write about it is what we'll focus on in the second week. And then there are sections of the proposal that you actually write, and then the coaches will look through, review, and support you for the second week. The third week is focused on monitoring, evaluation, and sustainability strategy. And the fourth week, that's where we look at budgeting. Week 5, it's designed to provide additional support, where we actually review the funded proposal and also teach you how to use artificial intelligence to come up with better quality writings for your proposal, or use AI as your personal assistant to actually help you come up with, improve on your writing skill. Because for some of you, you may actually have a writing challenge. You know, you may not be able to write, have very good writing skills, but there are tools that can actually help you improve on the quality of your writing. So when you're able to flesh out your ideas, you can actually put that into AI, and then it will rewrite it, come up with a better version for you. But actually leave that to the last week. Yesterday I was supposed to teach them that. I did a poll and I said, who knows how to use ChatGPT? Do you want me to teach you how to use ChatGPT to come up with project objectives? And I just said, no, if I show you people now, that means you'll be using it to come up with the sections of your proposal. So it's actually the final thing we'll do, so that, oh, you've done all the work, you've made all the mistake, you've gone all through the stretch to come up with your idea, and then you can now use the tool to enhance the quality of what you've done. So someone have a question, who did not go to school, you just have to find a way around that, okay, to be able to write a good proposal that can get you funding. So we're closing right away in a few, 5-10 minutes, we're off. And so this is how grant writing mastery is structured. On a week-to-week basis, this is what you would do. In the first week, there's specific sections of the proposal that you will actually write. So it's a program that you actually execute on learning. You work on the proposal, you go through the stretch of working on your proposal every week. So it's not just you're watching training or you're in a live training like this, you are doing the work, okay? So in the first week, you're working on your general information and problem statement sections of the proposal, that the template, because we're going to give you a proposal toolkit that contains your trainings, that contains all the templates that you need to work with. So you're going to work on the general information and the problem statement sections of your proposal. In the second week, which is project design, you will come up with your own log frame for your project. And then in the proposal, you're going to write the project activities section. You're going to write the program methods and design sections of your proposal. In the third week, you are writing your program schedule section, the M&E, and then the future funding sustainability strategy section of your proposal. And then the fourth week, you're going to complete your budget. You write the key personnel section of your proposal, program partners, and all of that. By the time you go through that, and then the fifth week, you finalize by writing your executive summary and the introduction to your organization. So by week 5, you have worked on, you have spent time, invested time in building a high quality proposal, and then it becomes a master proposal for your organization. Then you use it for multiple grant applications. So when you find opportunities that it's aligned with the idea you've worked on, you just need to do small tweaking. And then you don't need to write an entire proposal again because you've done the work. So it's just to be feeding it into the different opportunities that you find, and then you can cover more ground as you look through to be able to access more opportunities. So with this, the registration is now open. So for those of you that have joined the waitlist before, I told you that you're going to get a 40% early bird discount on your registration when we open the registration. So I usually open the registration, the early bird registration, for only 1 week. So the registration has opened this night. So in Nigeria and the UK, it's actually 10 p.m. In the UK here, we're currently on the same time zone with Nigeria since it's summer. So it's actually 10 p.m. For those of you in Kenya, thank you so much for staying to the end because it's past midnight right now in Kenya. Okay, so by midnight next Sunday, which is 7 days, the early bird discount will close. So what happened for June? By Thursday, all the seats had already gone. So we had to close registration even before the early bird discount ended. We had to close registration. The 25 seats were completely filled up. So we can only take 25 people in each cohort. That's why it's like this, because it takes work. I have to review 25 proposals. The other two coaches have to 25 proposals, give feedback on each of the sections on a week-to-week basis. So I don't want to dilute the quality of the program. I do not want to dilute the kind of support, the level of support that all participants get. And that's why the class size is set at 25 for each cohort, all right? And so the registration has opened tonight. What you need to do now is to take a screenshot of this slide so you actually know what to do. So the fee, if you're in Nigeria, the original fee is 75,000 naira, but for the early bird discount, you are only paying 45,000. You're only paying 45,000 naira for the early bird discount, which has opened today and will close on Sunday, which is 7 days. For the last cohort, by Thursday, it was already full. The class was full and we had to just close the registration. Okay, so registration fee is 75K. First, the early bird discount, you are paying only 45,000 to this account on the screen. So you just take a screenshot. Then for participants that are outside Nigeria, because in this current cohort, we have, for the July cohort, we have participants from Botswana, Kenya, Cameroon, the UK, and then Nigeria. And so we also have that mix for this onboarding workshop here. We have people from South Africa here also. So you're going to use this link, the seller link, seller.co/grantwriting for your registration. It's already set for you to get your 40% discount. All right, so just take a screenshot, ensure that you do not miss this deadline. Last cohort from midnight, from the same day we had the onboarding workshop, seats were already gone. And by just 4 days into it, the class was completely filled up. And I already have people who could not join the last cohort because of some technical issues that are already getting spots from this class. So this cohort, grant writing mastery, is where you put in the work. You come out a better social innovator. Beyond writing proposals, you become a better innovator that your mindsets will change. I mean, for those of you that have been following for a while, currently I'm a postgraduate candidate at the Greater Manchester Business School. I'm currently here in the UK. This is my third encounter being in a business school, engaging with a business school. I've always found myself in that path. And then most of my learning, I also bring it to participants. It influences how I see the work we do in the social impact sector. And remember in the beginning, I said we're infusing a business mindset to social impact work. So I deliberately do my capacity building within a business environment. This is the third business school that I have trained with. I've also worked in business schools before. So you are coming out of grant writing mastery with a different mindset, a different perspective to the work you do. Yesterday, someone was sharing, it wasn't even a grant that he was talking about, but it was just an idea that was going to get them revenue for their organization. And he has started running with it. So you come out with a different perspective, you come out with a different mindset, you come out with skills running your nonprofit in an entirely different way if you are deliberate about growing your nonprofit. All right. I always say that even if you're not writing grant proposal, you want to work with corporate organization. You have influential people in your network that can support you. Whatever you're telling them, the conversation will end with send us a proposal, and you are stuck. Send us a proposal. I had someone send me a message, 24 hours to a deadline. I will not write it. What will you do in 24 hours for? So you need to now begin to take ownership of your fundraising. In the beginning, I said, you cannot outsource that responsibility. You cannot outsource that responsibility, okay? So you must take ownership and say, no, I am going to develop the capacity to raise money for my organization, to create projects that work, to face writing proposal applications with confidence. Because when you're approaching it with fear, ideas cannot flow in a space that is bridled with fear. You have to be in a certain mindset to be able to create quality projects and communicate them in your proposal. So yeah, questions are dropping in the chat area. Can a new NGO who haven't done much or executed a large project get funding? Yes, there are small grants for small organizations, for startup nonprofits, small grants of even $5,000, $2,000. So you need to be able to identify those opportunities, okay? As you're looking for opportunities, small grants for startup nonprofits, funders that will not ask you for hand and leg, will not ask for everything. There was a particular Oxfam grant I saw, I think that was early last year or so, while I was working with a client. So that opportunity was specifically for small nonprofits that were not even registered yet, but you have to pair with another organization. That organization will now be the lead in that partnership. So yes, there are opportunities for small grants for startup nonprofit to small nonprofits. All right. So someone said the link is not working. The link is working. The link to join the waitlist or the WhatsApp group is working because I see a couple of new people have actually joined. So the link is working. All right. So maybe it's your network where you are. So just take a screenshot of the registration process, and then so you can start the registration. So in the group, I'm the admin. You can actually send me a message, or I'll just leave my number. Leave your number you can contact me with on WhatsApp. It's even there on the screen. Just take a snapshot, that number with a lot of 8s. You can send me a message and then kickstart your registration. So you pay the early bird rate. You're only paying 45,000. It's going to run for 5 weeks. You get access to your toolkit. So when you pay, you'll be added to a classroom. So you added to a classroom, and then as the class fills up, which will fill up pretty quickly, all of the will start roll out your onboarding protocol. You get your toolkit. We have a kickoff meeting where we'll train you on everything that needs to happen, the writing style that you need to approach with, and then you start writing your proposals, and the coaches will start reviewing it. Okay, so you're paying the 40% early bird discount, which is 45,000 naira to that account, the UBA account on the screen, and then you send a screenshot. You send a screenshot to me. That's the number for Smartegic on WhatsApp. Just WhatsApp it, send a screenshot to me, and then you'll be added to the classroom. For the international participants, you're from Kenya, you're from Botswana, outside of Nigeria. So pretty much from outside of Nigeria, you cannot use that bank account because that's my Nigerian account. So you're going to use the seller account. If you're in the UK, I think I have a few people from UK, you can either use the seller or you just send me a WhatsApp message. I'll send you a Lloyd's bank account for you to do your registration. So for international participants, use the link seller.co/grantwriting, and then for the Nigerian participants, you just do a direct bank transfer to the UBA account, and then send the screenshot, and you will be onboarded to the class. So I'm looking at questions now. We have questions in the chat. I'll just see if it's something that I will talk about in the open, or it's just a personal question. So for those of you that have questions, sorry, I have delayed. Your hand has been up, so you can just unmute yourself and ask your question or make your comments that you want to. So go ahead, the floor is yours, Ofon. Okay, someone does. Do I need to go and register an NGO or a business name? So it all depends on what you're trying to achieve. This class, the way it's structured, is specifically for non-profit organizations. So these are organizations that are registered as NGOs or registered as social enterprises, and you're doing work that advances the SDGs. So if you're asking, if your focus is you're just looking at the money, you know, that it's attached to it, or the potential that you can get funding, that's not the focus. The focus is, from what I've been teaching in the last 2 hours, is actually on the solution that you are driving. It's actually on the solution that you're promoting. That's what we bring money. Nobody's giving you free money or anything. It takes work, all right? So it's actually for non-profits. This particular class is for non-profits because of the way that we have designed it. So I'm seeing some of you asking questions that you missed the deadline for. If I miss this next training, when would the next one hold? So we may have another class in September, but it's not set on stone because of my current schedule, because I'm at the final stages of my MSc program, and then it's very tasking coming up with the dissertation and all of that. So the one I know for now, I know that, oh, I will do this August cohort. And then I can make up my mind when we get into August if I want to do September or not. All right. So just try as much as you can so you do not miss the deadline. You do not miss the early bird discount for Sunday. So that's why I've actually made that information earlier to say, okay, we're opening registration, and then you have a 40% discount. Okay. And then Joy, if you have a question, you can open up your mic and then ask that question.
All right, thank you so much. It's been really educative. And I don't know why you've not been seeing my questions. I've asked 2 questions. And
really, I apologize for that.
but somehow I think you have touched on some of the questions. But
Okay.
let me ask quickly. So one of my questions, one of my questions was
Go ahead, Joy. I can no longer hear you. You hear?
Okay, can you hear me now, please?
I can hear you now.
Okay, so my question is,
Okay, I don't know if there's a problem with your mic or something.
Can I ask, please?
Do you think it's okay to start searching for grants right away?
Okay, so the only thing I heard you say is, do you think I can start searching for grants? So all you said before, nobody could hear anything.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Okay, great. Please, I'll be fast about it. So I was saying that the NGO has been registered for a while, but real activities and data gathering started happening this year. However, I wanted to know your advice, knowing that funders have their criteria, right, on, you know, whatever grant. From your own knowledge, do you think it would be okay to start searching for grants now, or you need to do some other work? That's one of my questions.
Okay, so as long as, you have registered, you've been doing some things, you've been collecting some data, you can start looking for opportunities. So here, there are actually small grants, like someone had asked before. There are small grants that are open to startup nonprofits that don't have all of the criteria and all of that. So for some organization, they can just ask you for your CAC registration. They may not go as far as saying, oh, bank statements, audited financial reports and all of that. If it's small funding like $2,000, £2,000, $4,000, they're available. So you can start searching for those ones. You can start building your muscles. You start applying for those kind of opportunities. I think like Tony Lumelu, I don't think they ask for bank statements and all of that. I don't really think so. But the most important thing is your project idea and the potential it has, what it has the capacity to deliver, the benefits that it has the capacity to deliver for your target population. And since you've already been engaging with them, definitely you have some understanding about the local issues that you could feed back into your proposal writing. Okay, so you can start searching for opportunities, small grants, and then use that to build your muscle. You keep applying, refining your ideas.
Okay, that's beautiful. My second question is for the cohorts. Anyway, this first one wanted to lead me to if I could join the cohort. So I wanted to ask, when is the next cohort apart from this one? Okay,
and that was what I answered to say. I'm not certain if I'll do in September, though I would love to hold a class in September. For now, I don't know how my schedule is going to unfold, because I should be wrapping up my program in September, and it's going to be really tasking. And it's also with running marathon, finishing July, August, it's going to be a lot of work for the other coaches working with me. So that is not certain yet. It's something I would love to have a class also in September. It's not certain. The one I'm sure of is August. And by August, I should have made up my mind to say, okay, we're still going to have a run in September. So when we make that decision. Sorry?
So is it possible to have like an extension for someone, for example, because I know that my August will be really busy and I'll be traveling a lot. Okay. I may not have that. That's the reason for my question. So can you move up, you know, for someone because of time and schedule?
Yeah, I think that there was someone in this July cohort that had that challenge, and I had to now move her from the class to say, okay, you would be in August, because she was moving houses and it was going to affect her, you know, her participation and all of that. So I was able to make that conscious, say, okay, you know what,
just remain there. The August class you join, so it can happen.
All right, that's fine. Thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome. So there's someone that had a question. You were already saying something. I didn't really get who you are, but please, you can ask your question now.
Good evening, ma.
Yeah, good evening.
My name is Williams.
Okay, hello, Williams.
Good evening, ma.
Yeah.
Very interesting class, ma.
Thank you.
Very good. And I work in a university.
All right.
I work in the office of the Vice Chancellor, Research and Development as a research manager.
Okay.
One of my duty in that office is research funding and managing of research funding.
Okay.
And you'll be talking about non-profit organizations. My first question now is, how do we marry what you're saying now to a university setting? We have researchers, lecturers who are researchers. And one of my duty as a research manager is identification and dissemination of funding opportunities, developing and implementing funding optimization strategies, supporting them in writing of funding proposals, and how to align it, just like you've said, to the funders' interests.
Okay.
Then the coordination of the approvals and submissions. That's under the research funding.
Okay.
Now, talking about the management of the research funding now, we're talking about research contract negotiation and management, financial research management, and research projects management. So how do I marry this thing now to a typical university setting where lecturers carry out researches?
Okay, so why my specialty is more of this non-profit side, I've not really delved into research, but the same principles apply to your own sector. And so whatever research you're coming up with, it's not just about the research, but what does that research output have the capacity to deliver? What is the benefit of that research project? So the new knowledge or data that this research is supposed to create, how does it feed into policy? One thing I know about research, because for most of the projects I've worked on, we have some research angle. I've done a lot of work around conflict analysis, conflict assessments, person conflict, but those research, but from a nonprofit organization. And those research itself had a vision of feeding into public policy decisions, feeding into program development. All right. So you also need to, from all that we've been sharing, about the problem and what is the gap that your research actually meets? What problem would your research solve? You want to do a research around cancer, for instance, maybe you've noticed that there's prevalence, maybe a particular lecturer in your organization or your institution noticed that there's a high prevalence of cancer in a specific location or high prevalence of a particular disease in a particular location, and then you are carrying out a research. That research solves a problem. Research is not in a vacuum, it does not stand in isolation. So it's the same thinking like what I've just explained in this class that you need to build into it. That research has a purpose. It's going to feed into developing a solution or feed into public policy. And then all of those elements, the benefits and how the workings post-research is going to work needs to come in into your proposal or into the application process. And so you can actually marry the ideas and the principles that we have shared in this class in the way you are engaging with your lecturers, your stakeholders within your organization, so that they can come up with better research proposals. If I use my literal knowledge of a research that I'm conducting, because I'm currently doing a research around strategy within the nonprofit sector. I'm doing it, there's a purpose. That research is solving a problem. So there's a gap that I've actually identified, or there's something I'm trying to validate. And then that's why I had that proposal in the first place and saying, I want to study this subject. I want to evaluate what's going on within my sector to understand the role of strategy in building financial sustainability of nonprofits. So your research, now academia is not far away from development. So if you can marry the work you're doing around research, bring it closer to the SDGs, bring it closer to the development agenda now, because we actually also need that work, need that innovation that research or the academia can bring into the development sector. So marry it, you know, with the sustainable development framework, whatever research that your stakeholders want to do, how does it help advance the SDGs? So you can come from that aspect in improving the quality of the research proposals that come out from your institution. So I am not an academic.
I also have a question.
Do you have, is there another question or is someone else?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay, so Williams,
can I add
1
William
minute,
asked?
guys. I want to be sure that I have answered the question that Williams raised. So Williams, does that make any sense to you?
Yes, it does. It does. Thank you very much.
Right, great.
So
Okay,
can I come in now?
Please, I'm sorry. Can I just
So
add
can
what
we have
William
the people
asked?
who want to ask
I wanted to
questions raise their hand?
also
think
say
that's
that
I have already raised
for